I do love that you pointed out Alabama, because every single time these people come out and they're like, oh, the Republicans are the best for the economy, which is just statistically false. Like, you can go through every Republican policy, every Republican presidency, every Republican state, and look at their economic policy and economic performance, and it's dismal. It is trash. It is absolutely horrible by the numbers. But then you look at it. You got Texas and Florida, which are probably the only two Republican states that do anything at all. And it's hard to fuck that up, right? Like Florida is completely surrounded by water. It's sunny, it's warm. You've automatically got tons of tourism that's going to go there. Same with Texas has got a ton of coastline. Texas has got oil, natural resources. Florida has
international border.
International border.
Yeah,
again, both of them have international shipping borders. It is almost impossible to fuck that up economically. And still, like, they should be blowing California out of the water, right? Especially like Florida has Gulf and Atlantic access and whatnot.
Disney World.
Yeah, Disney World. But then you look at all of the other states that are donor states that, you know, produce more revenue than they take in, tax revenue than they take in. They're all Democratic states, and they all have more liberal policies. You look at Illinois, you look at my state of Minnesota. Minnesota has we're you know, we got an international border. I'll give you that. And we got a big lake that does give us sort of ocean access if you take a really long fucking time to get there, and a river. But we have a huge GDP per capita, the most Fortune 500 companies, the most progressive tax system in the country. We've got, we give kids free breakfast and lunch, which is apparently the worst thing in the world if you ask a Republican. We've got a fair amount of regulation that goes into our businesses, and it doesn't scare the businesses away. The economy is thriving. I don't understand. And then you look at states like Alabama and Louisiana and all of these southern states and then conservative run states that are just trash. I mean, rank at the bottom of every single metric.
All right.
Put it.
Yeah, look, this is one of my hobby horses here, is that if we were all taught that the states are laboratories of democracy. That is what we've all learned here. This experiment has gone on for hundreds of years. We know which experiments have turned out the best, right? And it's not the ones in Mississippi or Alabama or the states that have gotten consistently everything wrong throughout the entire length of this nation's existence. Like, they get women's rights wrong, they get gay rights wrong, they got slavery wrong, like everything, like all that. Why should I assume, oh, well, I'm sure those folks down in Mobile, they really know how to run things. Like, no. And what bothers me so much is that conservatives will just, it's like they shit on blue states so much, it's damn near a language. It's something they do by second nature. And like, red politicians will say, we got these horrible crime-infested cities, blue cities, and these destructive blue states. You never see Democrats do this. Yeah, I've never once seen like AOC or someone go up there. It's like these fucking like apocalyptic nightmares like Alabama, which it essentially is compared to every blue state that's out there, and that never happens. I don't know how we just let conservatives get away with this by saying all these red states like Missouri or Mississippi, that's real America, not New York. That's fake America. It's not real. When red states, like, check the top 5 on these stats. Check the top 5 for obesity, low education rates, life expectancy, child abuse, overdoses, murders, gun crime, every other crime. Red states are like 4 out of 5 every single time, and they have the balls to say, oh, these blue states, they really don't got their act together and be broke at the same time. I'm tired of it.
It doesn't take balls when the Democratic Party just rolls over and lets them do this. And I mean, this is what we've all been frustrated with. Like, we've all been screaming it, I feel like, at the top of our lungs, especially since the election. Is just they allow Republicans to write the narrative, and Republicans write a completely bullshit narrative. And all we have to do is just come out with the fact. Like, why are we not shit talking all of those shitty states? Democrats don't need Alabama to win any fucking election. We don't have
right.
How many Congress people, how many anything do we have in those states? Shit talk them like they do to our states. Like, why are we not doing that. It makes no sense. We need to take the gloves off, and the Democratic Party's trash. I mean, and this is what gets so frustrating is when Republicans sit here and they try to shit talk the Democratic Party. It's like, yeah, we fucking know, dumbass,
we know,
Nazi shit that you're doing.
Yeah, God. So listen, that
here's the thing, but I just, that's what makes it work is that they go Democrat Party bad, and their audience goes, yeah, and therefore we must be good, and that's the therefore we must be good part is the lie. But I wish I could sit here and tell them that Democratic Party bad is the lie. It is fucking not. And until Democrats, and by Democrats I don't mean us who voted for Democrats sometimes, I mean the fucking liberal fucking establishment people who are controlling the party. They're the idiots. They need to fucking go. And we need to take our fucking weapons and get them out of here. I mean that metaphorically. YouTube. Very metaphorically. And I don't even mean that winkingly. Like, we just need, like you said, put the fucking boxing gloves on and take it to people. And until they do that, if you don't give people an enemy, they're gonna start listening to the guy who's giving them an enemy.
And here's the thing, and I think it's twofold. We definitely need to start putting as a party policy forward that people want to vote for, because all of us are tired of voting against shit. Like, we are so tired of voting against shit, but we're also tired of voting against shit that then our representatives aren't even willing to go, be opposition to and fight against. It's not even like we're not voting for something, we're voting against something. It's like, we voted against it. Can you at least just go do stuff against that? That would be great. But I think what we need to do is we need to stop fighting the way that Republicans do things and start looking at it and taking it as a blueprint for across the board, because they do social media really well. If us on the left, the progressives want real change, we need to have a mega party of our own that takes over a faction of the Democratic Party from the inside and forces them to negotiate with what we want. And we need to be willing to tank bills and cause a scene and do that to start getting our constituents listened to, and
off the wagon. Can you put a pin in that, because that's a segment that we have with lefty New Year's resolutions. I want to get to that. That is great. All right. Just hold on to it if you can for a second. This is perfect stuff. But in this vein, though, that a topic that I didn't think of. I can't believe we never did it. We never talked about Jimmy Carter and Jimmy Carter dying a few weeks ago, and I wanted to bring him up because Carter is he's a complicated figure in American history. I remember you guys always hear how Republicans say that, all the good Democrats are gone. They say that a lot. The Democrats used to be good. It's the last good Democrat was JFK. And, suspiciously, the last Democrat before the Civil Rights Act was signed. It's very suspicious that he was the last good Democrat every single time. But one they hate, before they hated Obama and even Clinton, I remember Carter. They hated Jimmy Carter so much. They always referred to him, they still do, as the worst president ever. And look, I don't think Jimmy Carter was a great president. I will openly admit that. Like, just looking at the record, I can't say that it was a successful prestpresidency. I think he was a decent guy as far as presidents go, for sure.
The record, you can't say it was a successful presidency.
Say what?
He took so he took stagflation. He took Nixon taking us off the Bretton Woods system and fucking shit up with Middle Eastern relations and Cold War relations at tension. We had horrible stagflation at the time. He had a lot of hugely unstable foreign policy situations to deal with. He took on one of the worst situations that America has been in, with a possibility for it to get a lot worse. I mean, it could have been war. And he was the only president that we've had that didn't put us in a war. He's the only peacetime president we've ever had. Biden obviously got us out of a war, but he was technically overseeing a war for a short period of time there. And his policies are what Reagan's successes were. Like, everything that he did that Reagan could count as his success was Carter policy paying off. Now, some of it I do not think was the greatest long term. He did deregulate some things that I think in the moment were he felt needed or probably were needed to try to wrangle in inflation. But I think that needed to be a short-term thing that then Reagan took and ran with. And he had a lot of neoliberal politics, but his administration was putting the country on the right path. And it was only because Reagan's policies took a little bit longer to kick in that it wasn't a complete shit show right away for Reagan. I will die on Carter being a good president.
Well, all right. So you asked like why I wouldn't count his presidency as successful. I mean, the first one I go to is he lost re-election. That's the first thing I would say that I can't. It's hard to call that a success. But you talked about what I was going to mention is that I don't want to make this whole thing about Carter, but the Carter did face the problem. Like Carter, the American economy started to falter in the 70s, like the post-war economy. That's when things started to suffer, and Carter. He had like a Lincoln moment, essentially, where I'm not expecting Carter to be Lincoln, obviously, but it's like, okay, this is like, or FDR moment. I can say an FDR moment where here's your time to take on capitalism. He didn't do it. Like he didn't. He's like, nope, sorry, I'm not. Instead, what he did, this is the big blunder that I put on Carter, is that he did not do a good job of leading when you needed to motivate the people. And like now, that's why he lost. That's because America was facing that.
Reagan cheated and made sure that our prisoners stayed in Iran until after the election. I mean, let's be honest. He lost because Reagan committed treason and then cheated in the debate.
I think he still would have. But anyway, but I'll say that, the messaging is that I'm not saying Reagan had good messaging, but his messaging made sense when it came to motivating people to vote for him rather than just against your enemy. And so Carter's speech was, listen, we need to tighten our belts. We need to, restrict our spending. We need to wear sweaters when it's cold. Reagan's messaging was completely opposite. It was all, fuck that. We are the United States. We're the best. Look, of course, what Reagan said, but most of it was, and it's black people's fault. I'm not saying what Reagan did was good, but I'm saying when it comes to rhetoric, he got his ass kicked. And I think he would have lost either way. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know that he would have lost. The Iran hostage situation is historically what most people agree did him in. The fact that they were going to release the hostages and then Reagan through back channels had Iran hold on to those hostages a little bit longer because they were a fan of Carter, so they were readily willing to agree to do that. That is, I think, ultimately what did him in. It's really hard for an incumbent to not win re-election, even when the odds kind of seem against them. So I think he would have won, but obviously, it's anybody's guess at this point. You can't redefine history. But I do agree. I don't think that Carter had the best rhetoric. He was a little bit more soft spoken, and he's always led by example, and he did the work, right? And that's what he was doing. He did the work his entire presidency, and that's what made him a really great president. Rhetoric and what makes you a good candidate and what makes you a good president are two very different things, as we've seen. And Reagan was an excellent candidate. He's a fucking actor, and he got out there with his, this town ain't big enough for the both of us bullshit. He put on the cowboy hat and did his old B-movie shitty acting shit, and people ate that shit up. But he's a horrible president, and it's the same thing that they've done with Donald Trump. And that's really what it comes down to. Is it's rare you get one or the other, but unfortunately, to win a popularity contest doesn't mean you actually have to be good at the job you won the contest to do, and that is true.
Guys, I gotta take issue with what you're saying here because I'm the youngest one here, right? So
God, yeah.
I'm the farthest detached from.
There we go.
Presidency. But what you're telling me is that we had a president who was doing relatively good domestic economic policy, which did end up making Americans feel economic pain through no fault of his own, but through the need to address broader economic systems. And then he went up against a actor of a politician who ended up doing insane damage to this country because he was bad at messaging his accomplishments. That just sounds very and by the way, that president also rose to power off the backs of fucking racism and telling people to blame minorities for their problems. It all seems so unreasonable looking back at it now in 2025 that it's really tough.
The good news, John, it has never happened since, so don't worry about it at all. We can rest easy at night. I'll get to my point real quick, but I wanted to pull up Alex here saying, but could you beat him in a fight and or would you date him? So for those who don't know, I have a series on TikTok called Can I Beat the Shit Out of This U.S. President? And I go through naming all the presidents and saying whether my fighting odds are against them. Yes, I did beat Jimmy Carter in a fight, but I mean, come on, look at the guy. But okay, what I wanted to mention was with Carter's recent death was that this is something that annoyed me. I don't know if you guys saw the videos from Carter's funeral. And did you see this video here? This short clip. Let me see. It's Trump and Obama just yucking it up, just telling a few yucks, just a couple of dudes being bros. And I saw this, and you know, they say it's a big club and you ain't in it. As like it's a big funeral and you're not invited. That's apparently what's going on here. But I brought that up because of what you guys mentioned about the Democrats and that it's very hard to keep the fire burning when you see this from the Democrats, right? Like, I get that there's only like a few, like 3 or 4 living presidents now, and that's an experience that only they can relate with. Got it. And like, if you have that bond with Trump for some fucking reason, whatever, but you know there's cameras there. You know how people are feeling about Donald Trump. You know who you fucking are as Barack Obama. And sitting there and, you know, just doing ribbon is no, sorry. Like that is not, especially when you've gone out there and said that this guy is a threat to democracy. And like when the Republicans are dunking and celebrating on this, they have every right to. But saying, I thought you guys said this guy was Hitler. You see him yucking it up with Obama there. You see him telling jokes and everything. You see Biden smiling in photos with him. Like, is this guy a threat to our survival or not? Because the Democrats aren't acting like it, and they're right. They're not. And so it makes it very difficult on our side when I don't know if they believe it or not, but we certainly do. I wish the Democrats, like off the record, would grow a backbone with this shit.
Well, and that's as content creators been the problem, like this entire campaign season, right? Like, we're trying to fight to get their message out, to be like, this is why you need to vote this way. This is why you need to get to the polls. This is why you need to rally your neighbors. This is why you need to vote down ballot. This is the policy that's important. And then they make us defend them constantly on shit. Just no fucking reason to have to like first of all, you're not even paying us for this shit. Like, the Republicans are out there paying content creators across the board to just peddle whatever shit they want, right? Like, we're doing this shit for free, and it's like the least you could do is just make it so I didn't have to work harder to defend the dumb shit that you're already doing. Like, because I can't do it. I can't defend this shit. And I can say, like, yeah, that's wrong, and I don't believe that that's what we should be doing, but that it's this option or Nazis, literal fucking Nazis. Like, that's the two options, and I'm so done with the Dems.
And to you know, further this point, it's really upsetting to just watch them not only do dumb